Good morning, Guam, and thank you for starting your day the KUAM way. It's our starting lineup on the KUAM Podcast Network. Welcome to my show. My name's Chris Barnett. Good morning. This is a group chat, and a group chatting this morning with Board of Education member, Mr. James Lujan. James, thanks for joining us, and really wanted to get you in here. I know we spoke about kind of clearing the record and getting your side of some comments that you reportedly made, and also kind of unpacking this decision that was voted on unanimously by the Education Board for DOE to, what's the terminology we're using? Break away from the IIAAG? Or are you guys just going to run the DOE side of sports? How would you classify it?
Well, through several years of investigating, we had work sessions, we brought in the community, we brought in our schools to find out. There was great pressure, with the public school stakeholders inquiring about what are we going to do to improve the situations that are going on with sports in IIAAG. As you notice, in the past several years, our teams in the interscholastic sports have been forfeiting. So that forfeiting their games, why is that? The issue.
Well, why is that?
That's a question to be answered by the schools. As to why they're forfeiting. With the newspaper, it says that they couldn't field the kids on time to compete, to be eligible.
Right.
So why is that? So we asked the IIAAG what they can do to help with that. Instead of forfeiting the games, apparently a year keeps going by, and we continue to forfeit games. They haven't done anything to improve. Over the years, there were certain things that the superintendent has given the IIAAG to take care of the matters. And on the last meeting when we had the general public come in, superintendent asked Mr. Randy Key, then the president, we've given you items over the last several months to take care of. Have you done anything with it? He said no.
And Randy Kukigi is the athletic director for Simon Sanchez.
Yes.
Which
so
is a public school.
Who are you to represent? You have the interests of the school, and then you are a figure with the IIAAG. How do you make an objective decision?
Is it your opinion that the IIAAG is, because I feel like there's this, I guess stigma might even be the wrong word, but people are assuming that the IIAAG for some reason is private school run, but it's actually, isn't it a partnership between athletic directors from both public and private schools?
Yes, it is. I think it is.
Then why do you feel that the public schools aren't being treated fairly if they have a seat at the table?
Well, like I said, there were concerns over the years that have come about, and when you sit in the spectators' den or you mingle with the coaches and the players, these issues come up. I know in this last several times, issues came up about some trouble within the games, and one public school kid was punished for it. I think that kid was even suspended, but yet there was a video that was clear that it was that other kid that started everything, but did not receive any punishment.
So you're saying a public school student was suspended and punished, and a private school student was.
I don't know if it was a private school student, but when that team or player made an appeal, it wasn't entertained because of those issues. But that's a very small thing.
Right. So what are the big ones?
But my main concern that has come about being in sport is that when the IIAAG first started, it was great because it became an independent leadership
Right.
to run sports. The problem with it that I see today, after 20 years, it hasn't improved structurally. You know, it's a management nonprofit organization. They manage sports, but they use the athletic directors of the school to do that. Whereas when DOE was running the sports, athletic directors took care of their function, which organizing the sport. But there was an upper level advisory board independent of the league itself, and they were the principals of all the school, public and private. So their objective is more clear and independent when it comes to making decisions on issues that come about through play. You know, compared to the athletic director. The athletic director should be 100%, you know, citing his program. That's how I see it.
Right.
You
So
know.
let's go back to the formation of the Independent Interscholastic Athletic Association of Guam and the reasons why it was formed. Isn't it true that was formed because DOE was dropping the ball, we were having fields that weren't getting cut, there were busing problems, and isn't that why this whole independent organization was formed separate from the Department of Education?
The only one that I know that back then that was part of initiating that program was Ed Brown. There are probably several other gentlemen who were doing the thing, and it was a good idea because at that time. Now I didn't know the structure of how it was going to be run back then. But yes, there were issues with DOE and one of the biggest issues was money.
Right.
But since then, money has been identified. So it doesn't come from DOE anymore, it comes from the Healthy Futures Funds straight in. So now there's an independent source. But with the IIAAG, and I've been making mention to this ever since I got on the board, that they need to restructure the organization so they have a hierarchy. You know, a level of an advisory board that is independent of representation in the games. You know, just like let's take for example the Little League and the Potawatomi football that we have on Guam, the youth football. There are coaches that are part of the organization, but there are also a hierarchy. There is a board that governs, independent of being part of the team. So they have a more neutral base. Perception as to how they're going to conduct their discipline and their business, you know, and that's what I've been saying to the IIAAG. Let's improve that because, you know, apparently the teams are saying things, the schools are saying things.
Right.
You know,
but is there a process for if the schools are saying things? Do you think that there's a process for those grievances to be aired instead of just unilaterally pulling out from the program? And I know you said that you had talked with the ADs, but the people we interviewed, from coaches and athletic directors, they were very, very surprised, and some were even shocked that this decision had been made so quickly. And some of the people we talked to, you keep mentioning issues, they said, well, what are the issues? We don't know because no one told us. And so how do you respond to those
I'm
things?
pretty sure you know on Guam, not people don't come out. You know, I think more people are scared to say something. Me, I'm coming from a point where I've been in that grind. You know, I shared some of those frustrations. I shared some of those issues, not only with IIAAG, with DOE, but I'm here now in the seat that I can make improvements. And one thing that I know is public education is well-rounded. Our focus is to establish a well-rounded student or a student athlete. Now, throughout the United States, times have changed. And that I think that's the thing that people are afraid of on Guam is change. You know, I say we need to do something to improve public education.
But you see people's hesitation is because DOE had a shot to run the public school, the sports, and they blew it, and that's why we started the IIAAG. And so now here we are, how many years later? I mean, you read the news, we're still having the same funding issues with the public schools. Right?
DOE didn't have a shot.
They
ran it. They ran it, and I guess the priorities of the powers that be back then was that sport was seen as a secondary to anything else. And I said that to Brad McCready when he first came to Guam and interviewed me as a coach on the football field. I said, why? He asked, why is it on Guam, you know, it's not one of the priorities? I said, well, we're stuck in the 1960s. and this was already, I think, in the 1980s.
Right.
I said, when you speak about those things, we're starting to change that.
Yeah, but I feel like we're starting to change that because we've had the IIAAG running things, and now you're starting to see more students get athletic scholarships. So I guess devil's advocate, people out there are wondering if it ain't broke, and if it is broke, why don't we know how it's broke? And then if it's not broke, why
Well,
fix it?
there are two ways to look at it. One, you look at it as a league as a whole. Two, you look at it internally as Department of Education. You know, the private school people, they can do what they wish, you know, to how they want to do things. With the public school, we have to follow mandates, you know, like the ESSA program, Every Student Success Act. That deals with education, which filters down. Now, how do we continue to improve a student? You know, 29,000 students, 85% of the population. You know, are we going to start segregating them to say, okay, if you didn't make the 2.0, tough, go, because that's what the comments I heard. Go to the community and find something. I said, wait a minute, that's not our perception as educators. We need to try and make things whole. And in the States, they're doing the same thing. Avondale, Arizona has modified. They have the same kind of a setup, you know, when it comes to the grade scale for qualifying.
Yeah, and so let's transition into this. You know, some of the comments you made that have drawn the most controversy were the comments you made about lowering the standards. And so you're here to say that's not what you meant. You didn't mean to say that. And
I kept telling that reporter, that's not what I mean. I'm not lowering the standards. Changing the 2.0 or removing it doesn't mean you're lowering the standards. That's why you have what they call a progressive scale, and there are many ways to do progressive scales. You know, there are with that school or that district that I was saying, Avondale, Arizona. They have the same setup we do. That you have to qualify in 9 weeks. That's the next time they check the grades, and if you don't qualify, you're thrown out of the team.
But what about the
they're doing the same thing we're doing. They have to cancel seasons. The other team who's ready to compete also gets hurt because they don't play. So what am I trying to do? So what they did was they added more grade checks, and then, you know, they put them on a progress scale. Meaning, if you did not make this grade this week, you're not going to play this certain game until you improve that score.
So as it stands now, let's say I want to play football. How soon do I need to get my grades in, and what grades are they
right now,
as
an incoming 9th grader in the public schools, the private schools hold their own requirements, minimum requirements. Right now in the public school, I believe the incoming 9th graders on the first quarter, they get to play scores regardless of what kind of grades they have. You know, that's my understanding.
Right.
At this point.
Because there's no record of.
So if we can do that, just imagine what we can do to bring those kids into the educational fold. If we were to give them a chance, not only their 9th grade year, but maybe kids who come in after that, or kids who are not ready. You know, 9th graders, some of them are underdeveloped, but by their sophomore year, you know, that growth spurt gives them that opportunity, or that maturity gives that opportunity to change, because that's how we think in education.
So let's talk about, if you weren't meaning that you wanted to lower the standards, what exactly are you meaning? Because if it's a 2.0 right now, which is a C, that's average, and you want to let kids with grades lower than that participate in high school sports,
See,
how is that not lowering the standards?
Identify specifically the threshold. But what I've been reading is a progress grade, a satisfactory grade. You know, what is a progress grade? What is a satisfactory grade? That's
Right.
different definition.
And so these are more
2.0 is just one of those levels.
right.
So I'm not lowering the standards.
You're just switching it to a different scale. You're trying to switch it to a different scale.
When you compete academically or even physically in sport, you know, do you make that guy train so that you can achieve, or do you have to train individually to achieve? Is he going to do all the work, but yet you're going to get the the achievement award, or are you going to do the work to get your achievement award? So by saying that, you're individualizing the interest of the student, and that's what public school does. They have to individualize the treatment of the student. So we're not going to base his credentials on your performance. We're going to base his credentials on his performance. Now our objective is to get them into the educational fold. You know, right now, some of these, a lot of the kids, I don't know what they do when they leave school. But
hasn't it always been that sports is almost a reward system, meaning that you keep those grades up, you get to play sports? That's been the incentive for a lot of kids, and I know so many kids, public and private school, who work hard. I mean, we do a segment called Game Changers, and it's not called Game Changers because these kids are getting D's and F's. It's called Game Changers because they're excelling and they're working hard to keep their grades up so that they can be rewarded to play sports. And I think what's dangerous is when you start talking about a progressive scale, I mean, there's a lot of issues. Does the NCAA accept that? I mean, you're mentioning one jurisdiction. How widespread is
How
the
do you think a
progressive
lot of
scale?
these kids got to the NCAA? You know, is like I said, there are many districts throughout the states. They have different ways of grading,
Right.
or grading their academic performances. You know, in some states, you have to pass 4 of your 5 classes. It never said anything about a specific grade. You have to pass 4 of your 5 classes. You know,
Well, I
so
think how
there are
it
different
works-
ways.
how
So
it-
all
how
of
it-
these go towards they channel towards collegiate approval, but not everything is necessary to do that. You know, and that's where we come in as a educational bodies. How we're going to do that, most especially when we're moving into a program that doesn't call for numbers in grading. It calls for a different scale, and right now we're trying to put that together.
I understand that, yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is that progressive base where it's not A, B, C, D, F like we've all been
And it's
used
not
to.
95 or 96%. It's a different scale.
Right, so it's
So
like satisfactory or needs
It,
improvement.
it
Almost
has,
like the
it has
elementary school.
it
gotcha.
has it's
Right.
much more specific to their learning.
So what, when you talk about progressive scale, we're not there yet though.
No,
Right.
and I'll tell you right now, you know, the superintendent right now is organizing the team, and I made recommendations to him on the with some of the people that I know that would be a good reference to helping him organize that, and he's mentioned a few people that he knows in the states that are athletic directors. I said that's great. You know, the more people we have that can improve moving Guam sports, most especially to me, because I'm a representative of public school.
Right.
I was elected to do that. You know, it is to improve public school sports. It has nothing to do with the relationship between us and the private. I had no intention or any intentions to remove them. But how do you fix things, you know, if you don't focus on your whatever you're gonna fix?
How did this move so fast? Because I remember last year it was something that was being talked about. It was floated around. People were whispering about it. Fast forward a few months, we have boom, the board. votes
I've been
it
on the board
unanimously.
almost 2.5 years,
yeah.
so
But I remember there
it's
was
I've been making mention to these things,
Right.
and there has been inquiries and work sessions and
So you're
investigations
saying
to do
you've
it.
done
Yeah.
the legwork that everybody should
Yeah.
know about it, and
Yeah.
so you don't think anybody should be surprised because it's just interesting that everybody we talked to who's a stakeholder was shocked and they were blindsided by this. They didn't see it
Well,
coming.
it depends on what do you mean by stakeholder? Are you because you pay
Well, the
taxes
IIAAG is
or
a
be-
body comprised
Yeah,
of different
well, we're the
representatives
IIAG
from
can
different
continue to
schools.
go on.
Right.
They can continue to go on, you know? Nothing stopping them from continuing to go on.
Why does it seem like an adversarial tone between the
It's not an adversarial.
Is it good?
Maybe it's my manner of speaking because I'm a coach
Right.
and I'm hard of hearing already. But and that's what and I'm trying to defend myself. That says no, I'm not. I went to private school. It's not that.
So do you have a problem with private
when
schools?
when a mechanic needs to fix his car, what do you have to do? He has to turn off the car. You know, and then
So this
probably
is
park
your-
it to have it fixed before he can. So it's the same. You know, we're trying to get ourselves improved
Right.
for all students in the public school. For all students, not just a few. Now, if
But
you
you don't
if you
think that
read
the double ID, I feel like they do represent all the students because you have the athletic directors and the public schools have a seat at the table.
right, but when we come to the table and we say we need to do this, you know, we don't get a response or nothing is mentioned, or they say no. What we're gonna do?
I
We
just feel
have
like
to
this is
move.
almost like a move backwards. It reminds me of when DOD pulled out of the public schools, and you know we're going back to. I mean, and let me just ask you this question,
Sure.
right? So DOE pulling out. I think what the student athletes want to know is, are we going to see competition like we've been seeing between the private schools and the public schools? How are we gonna-
I surely hope so, because our intent is not to exclude the private school, and I made mention to that in the work sessions when they did come. I said, no, our intention is not that, but in order to take control of what we need to do to make public school sports fit back into the mission of Department of Education, we may have to do that. And if you're not willing to allow us to do that, then we're gonna have to do something, and if that means pulling it. But you're welcome to join us.
So you see it as a DOE running one league, IIAAG running another league with interactive play between both leagues. Is that how you? Or do you see
not
DOE,
necessarily.
You know,
Not necessarily, because my focus is improving public school sports for public school students. You know, the association between the public and the private has no relevance. Right now, it has relevance because they're seeing us pull away. But we're not saying you're excluded. You know, we're saying we need to fix our program. We need to get into control of it, and we need to move on things. But in order to do that, we cannot be butting heads with another program. We got to be able to take ourselves out of the fold, fix ourselves, and that's why the superintendent asked for 2 years. Give him 2 years to make things right,
right.
and then we can open it back up to whoever's going to manage it. Because I still feel, or still consider the IIAAG a nonprofit management organization.
Right.
You know,
I just wanted to go
although
back to
the makeup is made up of athletic directors from all the schools, but I see that as conflicted, because there's no advisory board that can speak independent, you know, of anybody.
But I
And
feel like
that's where I think it
isn't
needs
the
to be.
Independent Interscholastic Athletic Association of Guam that independent body that's comprised of elements from the public and the private schools? That's what it is. But you're saying we
Correct.
don't have it.
That's what. But it represents, each of them represent their school. How do you represent an independent source if you're representing your school? You're hired by the school, you know. But if they had an upper level advisory board, you know, that has no affiliation to the.
But
to
we're
the
not
schools.
there, because you.
And
you
that's
guys
what
pull
I've
out.
been asking for many years, you know. And since I've been on the board, I've been mentioning something like that. And you know, Pat Bennett brought it up. He goes, there should be an advisory board, independent of.
But this
you
conversation
know,
is almost irrelevant because we're past that point. Because
yeah,
you
we're
guys have
past that point.
divorced.
So now,
So going back to the grades, I was researching the NCAA. They basically do ask that in order for student athletes, or you know, just students in general, to be eligible to attend a Division I and play those sports, you have to graduate high school. You have to earn a core course grade point average of 2.3 or higher. Complete 16 core courses. That's 4 years of English, 3 years of math, and they actually look at the GPA from these core courses. So I don't see anything in there about progressive.
when if you're in education, you may understand. I don't know if you would know, but you may understand
I'm not in education.
what progressive is. Now, just because it says 2.3, now what we need to do is when we move into the standard-based grading, is we got to identify what is going to constitute
The
2.3.
equivalent, right. So
But
do you
all
think
those
that-
other requirements don't change.
So what about
Nothing changes.
Are you saying that students who get D's and F's and lower than 2.0 should be able to play sports just like the students?
I'm not even going to say that because the superintendent is tasked to put a program together
Right.
that's going to be much better for the public school system. That's why I haven't said anything about that. You know.
But how did people just start saying that you want to lower standards? Because that's been the biggest one
Well,
of the biggest
I don't know.
controversies.
Maybe it's a ploy to get something negative to report. I don't know. I never had any problems with reporters or being interviewed.
So
You know,
do you or don't you want to allow students with D's or F's to play high school sports?
I want to get students that we can identify that can use sport as a leverage to improve their educational or academic.
Do you feel we already do that
Status.
if we tell them like, hey,
No.
do good in your grades and you can play sports?
In this day and age, telling is not good enough. And according to Guam, they blame everything on DOE every time something comes around. So I'm trying to make that effort to say, you know what? If it's not good enough, then we're going to do something else to improve.
What about a separate?
We're not going to leave these kids out on the corner to hang. We're going to bring them in.
No, I understand what you're saying. I just feel like it's.
But the
again,
grade requirement is not going to change for those who want to achieve that collegiate aspiration. That's an individual thing. If you want to achieve that, then you follow it, you know, and we're gonna set the course for you. Those attributes in or those requirements are not going to change, but we're going to expand the program so that we may allow more kids to see that light.
What about the comments about something about Micronesians not having the mental capacity? Can you explain those comments? Because
Yeah,
that's
I
another-
you know,
another thing
talking on the phone on the side of the road, trying to figure out what I'm going to say for a lack of a better phrase. You know, I'm a coach. I'm one who doesn't beat around the bush. I'm straight on with things, and maybe that's a fault of mine. You know,
So
but
did
by
you- do
saying
you
that,
think
but I was giving him an example. Says, hey man, you know, we have a lot of these kids, and I'm a witness of that because I taught 30 years in the school, and I've had every kid that there was that attended in public school. I had all of them. So would I know? Yes, I would know who needs help. You know, who I like to see improve. And all kids. I spend my lifetime doing that. You know? And right now I see in the newspaper, you look into the newspaper. You know, people have issues about these things. I'm trying to improve.
So what were you trying to say when you reportedly said that Micronesians don't have the mental capacity to?
No, well, that's what, you
'Cause
know.
I mean, it just seems racist.
I can say a sentence, and you can write the sentence down. The question is what part of the sentence are you going to write? You know? Like I said, for you, maybe it sounds abrasive. For me, at that point in time, probably that was the only way I could say it.
So
You know,
what did you-
because
what
you
did
asked
you
me a
mean by
certain
it?
question. You know, I don't want to put myself in a bigger hole because I am not a bigot and I am not racist. But for the purpose of identifying, you know, we have a lot of kids who come on to Guam from Micronesia, you know.
Isn't Guam Micronesia?
Yes, it is. But we seem to be identifying, right? So they come on to Guam, and they come on to Guam to make a better life. They want to get into, they want to make a better life. So what am I going to do? Some of them don't have the capacity because they speak a different language. They probably didn't have the learning that they should have gotten because they live in the outer islands. And I've talked to a lot of these kids who come to my classes.
You know, let me throw you
So
a bone
I'm
here
trying to
and
give
help.
them that opportunity.
You're basically trying to say that because a lot of students who have a background from the Federated States of Micronesia are English as a second language and struggle with some of the core subjects, that they don't have the same opportunities that other students who maybe are from here and who have been in the system. Is that what you're trying to say?
For some part, yeah. I think you know, talking to my students, and some of them that because there are students from their parents are from Micronesia. Remember Micronesia has different countries, the FSM. You have the Marshalls. Yeah. So they're different. That's why we say Micronesia, and Guam is part of Micronesia, but we're not a country. But you have kids who say that they came from the outer islands, so they don't have their education only is up to a certain point. But when they come into the high school, they didn't have high school, or they didn't get to go to school, or it was limited. For what they say, that's what I'm saying. It says, as a teacher, I have to modify.
Right, yeah.
I have to modify to
see-
accommodate
Sure.
that thing. So in sport, I'm saying, you know what? A lot of them have a lot of talent and desire to play sport.
But they can't.
But
because they don't have the
they
grades.
can because they have a threshold. But how are we going to make them meet that threshold so that we can tap that
And this
resource?
is why people think you want to lower the
Yeah, that's why
standards.
people think I want to lower the things, and not to saying that kids at Guam are not in that situation, but we're already taking care of that. They're growing up on Guam, but the ones that are coming in, there's a great many of them, and I see them on the out in the community. I said, I like to bring these kids into this
Right. So let's talk potential solutions.
that's my
and-
intention, but
yeah, right.
not to be ill-intended. I don't know where that racist thing came from. Maybe they watch too much TV from the States. There's too much racial tension. I don't see that.
And
I
so
don't see that.
let's talk solutions here for a second, James. And if the intent is to, and I think it's noble that you want these kids to be able to participate, but I still think that we need to maintain a baseline standard and let the students know that, hey, if you want to play sports, you're right, it's school, it's not sports. They're supposed to learn. But if you want to play sports, you need to achieve a certain baseline standard of a C. I personally think it should be higher, but I can understand how students who struggle with the core subjects because of cultural, social, and economic differences aren't afforded those opportunities, but maybe we need a program for those students. Intramurals, I'm pretty sure there's other ways, I know we do it in the middle schools, but to just divorce from the
Then that
IIAAG.
would categorize as discriminatory. You
No, it
know what I'm
wouldn't,
saying?
because it would be,
There's a lot of
if you want to give kids who can't achieve that baseline standard the opportunity to play sports, then let them play sports in a B league. I mean, they do it in baseball. They have, the majors, they have the minor leagues, and so they do get to play the sports. They do have
You
that
got to
outlet.
understand sports in the States with the NCAA, and it's all about money. I went to school in the States. When my master's program, I was part of the PE department. I had to work with some of the teams, and my professors. I come to an understanding how scholarships are given to each school. It's money. Those things they generate economic activity in the States.
What's that got to do with this, though?
It has a lot to do with this stuff because it starts to delineate the performance. It starts to individualize. It's up to you now, as a player. Not only do you have to be physically talented in your sport, but you also they want to see some academics. But money drives towards collegiate participation. But after that, it's all your performance.
Have you had any conversation with Terry DeBold about this decision? I know you guys are
Terry
close.
was at the meeting.
And so what do you think their take is on it?
Well, apparently, I don't know. He didn't offer too much at the meeting. He more just wanted to prevent it from happening. But and we kept bringing it up. And like I said, the best advice that we got from the public was Bill Bennett, who says, we need to establish an independent advisory board. Aside from the ADs running the show,
Right.
there has to be.
So
Apparently, they didn't take that cue.
So why didn't you guys?
So
go
now
that route?
we took that cue and we're going to say we're going to try and make things happen for public school sports, because that's our focus. That's nothing to do with separating public and private, because our intention is to include everybody. But how do we change things if we're going to have to beat against another source? How do we do that? It defeats the purpose. We need to get our program and put it together so that it performs better.
So I guess the takeaway here, because we want to kind of wrap this, is
Yeah.
you don't want to lower
No,
standards?
no. We'll figure a way how to include. I'll tell you, kids with certain disabilities that are capable of playing sport. You cannot use that 2.0. You have to use according to their IEP that works with that. And that's law.
That's the individual.
That's law,
education
yes.
plan,
The
right, yeah.
IEP,
Yeah,
the individual
That I can
educational
understand.
plan.
It's almost
So,
like apples and oranges.
in that
though.
same respect,
Right.
that can happen with every player, every student, in that respect. And that's what they have that, and that, you can name whatever grading system you want, how you want to name it, but in the eyes of progress, that's why they call it progressive scale. You're telling the student, in order to play, you got to get here.
Right.
But we're keeping an eye on you. We're monitoring your grade. We're going to help you move in that direction.
But do you think that's fair to the kids who are already succeeding, who are already making the
The
grades?
kid,
who are
I
already
think it's
playing?
fair because it gave everybody the opportunity. I may not be as smart as you, but maybe with a lot of hard work, I can reach a threshold that's comparable to you. And that's what we train in sport. You may have all the talent, but I'm going to get all these other players ready to equate to that talent so that we can have an awesome team. So that's how we want to do things. SPAT, which is an organization run in the States, I think by the NBA, which is sports, academic, and athletic training. So they use that progressive system to move when they're on developing athletes. Remember, high school and grade school, they're development programs of education. We're not in the hierarchy of collegiate and professional leagues. We're all about developing the well-rounded kid.
I understand what you're saying, and maybe you feel that some of that is attributed to a resistance to change. But then I feel that we've worked so hard to tell the students, and we've all been public school, private school, parents. We've all been very consistent with our message that, hey, if you wanna play baseball, you wanna play football, you wanna play basketball, volleyball, if you wanna wrestle, then you need to work hard in your studies. And I've interviewed hundreds of kids who talk about how hard they work and how hard they struggle to maintain that grade point average. And I just feel like maybe it's a little bit of running downhill with this progressive grade scale, and I don't know if we're ready to just kind of throw the A, B, C, D, F out the window.
If we're part of the
today.
United States and we're following the United States,
Right.
then the United States is changing. There's many districts throughout the country are changing their ways of and their thoughts. They're telling them it's not enough. We need to do more, and that's what DOE's been told. Telling them it's not enough. We need to do more. So we need to provide that base and that foundation for them to grow into it.
And you also, and just going back to the mental capacity, you explained in this broadcast what you meant by saying that Micronesian students don't have the mental capacity to achieve.
Not
that baseline.
ill-intended. No. If they're going to be part of our community, then we need to show them, not just tell them. We need to show them, and we need to guide them through it, so that they become successful in our community.
Last question: do you have an axe to grind against the private schools? Is there any kind of?
I don't have
motivation?
any axe. A lot of them are my friends. I grew up with them. Some of them are my classmates. Some of them I coached with. I coached them. So I don't have any axe to grind. I went to private school. But some people have axes to grind. They keep mentioning, especially in the media, public against private. I really hate. I turn it off. I turn the TV off when I hear that.
But
Public
you can see
against
why
private.
people would say that is because we're at a point where it was public schools, then we merged, and I feel like the progress.
But if you're
has been
talking
going-
one league, then why do you continue to keep saying that? If we're
so
talking
now we're
one league,
separating, and we're gonna have two leagues.
Well,
So
I
that's
don't
why
know.
people would.
I don't
it's
know
a
if we're gonna have
reasonable
two
thing
leagues.
to say. It's
All I
public,
know
it's
is that
private.
we need to fix our programs in the public schools. Where we need to fix our programs in the public schools. And the only way to do that is to pull it in-house to do it, so that we don't disturb anybody else.
How closely are you going to be working with the superintendent? Because I know it's out of you guys' court.
Yeah.
You're able to sell it to all the other board members. It
Well,
was
of course, I'll be
unanimous.
monitoring it, but I'm going to give them that latitude to do what's best. They're the professionals. That's their job, you know, and they chose to take it on. You know, if I didn't have the confidence of them, I don't think the board would have agreed to it. But because they have the confidence in doing something to bring it back into the fold of DOE, you know, become an educational thing with DOE, not just for the student to pass a grade and move forward, but bring it part into the mission of DOE. Every time we get accredited, we have that school environment. There's a section and there's a school environment, you know. So where they often ask about our sports. So what are we going to do to bring that back into the fold of our mission of education?
How do we heal this hurt, this divide now that we have because of the decision that you pushed to the board and the board approved?
You know,
Because obviously there's, I mean, you go on social media, it's not just the parents, it's students. Students, like I said, who work hard now feel like
double IAG.
everybody gets to participate. There's no
Double
reward.
IAG is a management organization. It's not the life of sports. It's a management organization. If they choose to pull on, they don't want to do it anymore, then what? You know? But each school, each private school has the desire. If they have the desire, they can do anything they want because they control their own. And we're as DOE, we're not saying you're excluded. We're saying we need to pull ourselves together. But if you want to join us, do so.
So you guys are basically taking your ball and you're going over here, and you're saying, "Hey, if you guys want to come over here and play with us, we'll be over here."
We're saying that you can continue to play under the double IAG. We don't have a problem with that because we know we have to fix our system, you know, before we can enter a program like that again.
If
We
you-
want to fix it, but in the same time we're fixing it. We're not excluding you. If you want to join us to help us improve on that, and at the same time continue to compete, you know, you're more than welcome. Well, when you have an authority over there and you have an authority over here that are butting heads, what happens? You know, normally people go to war with that kind of thing. I don't want to go to war. When people disagree, they get mad at each other. We don't want you to get mad. We need to fix ourselves so that we can improve our value.
Well, we just wanted to get you in here and really kind of give you a chance to explain the comments that you made and to kind of justify them and then justify this decision. We know now that it's in the superintendent's court, and moving forward, he's having a sit down with Terry DeBold. And just, I guess, in closing, if you have your way and DOE assumes full control of what they're going to be responsible for in January 2020, that's the timeline, will public school kids and the private school kids be competing against each other the way it is now? If James Lujan has his way.
That has always been my intention. The key thing is to fix the public school program, because that's what I was voted into, is to help the public school improve. You know, the private school can do as they wish. If they want to join the public school, that's even better. You know what I'm saying?
Does anybody need to join anybody? Can these two
No.
leagues coexist and play against each
We
other?
made sure that we told them when we had these work sessions that our intention is not to exclude them. Not to exclude them. But when you have an independent body running it, and we're part of that, and we can't seem to make things work, then we have to pull ourselves out of it first and fix it. You know, like I said, the AAG is an independent management program, non-profit. You know, but that's how I see them as. I don't see them as St. John or Father Duenas or Academy, no, or Sanchez or Jitter. No, I see them as an independent body, licensed management firm. You know, I don't see that.
I see it.
Yeah.
I mean, and we can agree to disagree. I see it as we tried DOE running it. It didn't work. Lord knows you guys have money issues. I think all the money needs to go to educating the students, the facilities. I mean, we're trying to build a middle school. I feel like it's been okay.
Yeah.
I haven't heard any of the issues, and you know, I know a lot of. I haven't heard any of that stuff. I'm not sure if it was a transparent enough process to kind of resolve those issues. But what's done is done, and I think at the end of the day, the main concern I have is for the students. The level of competition, I think it's in everybody's best interest for all the schools to compete against each other.
You know, like I said, we had a session with even the private schools were there, independent people were there, and they offered great suggestions. And one of the best suggestions that I heard of was that have an independent board, you know. And I said, I hope when the superintendent does create or does improve our status with public school sports, that we offer that avenue to create an independent board so that it can run objectively. You know,
Kind of sounds like we already had an independent
no,
board.
we didn't have an independent board because you have conflicted interests. Being an athletic director representing my school, as a principal, I'm going to say you better hold up to our, you know, what our school wants.
Right.
Right. So that he's torn between making a decision representing his he's hired, who hired him, and versus him being a member of the IIAAG. So who are you representing? And in 20 years, I would think that the IIAAG would improve that by establishing an independent board to iron out issues, appeals, or.
I just remember because
the-
we're
the
talking
move-
about the collective memory of people. It isn't really there when we go back to when DOE was running it, but you know the fields were being cut. I remember lights, like paying the power bill for lights. So
Yeah,
hopefully we
who do
can-
you think paid for all of that?
Hopefully
DOE
we
paid
can-
for all of that.
Okay, so
Yeah, we even provided buses for everybody. So, you know, now that there's an independent source and the money is not even come to us, it's going straight to you know, we just signed the procurement orders and give it. Now there's an independent source feeding the Healthy Futures funds, feeding interscholastic
so money
sports.
shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, there shouldn't, because it's not in our budget anymore. It comes from independent source. So would it hurt DOE trying to improve it? No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't. You know, but nothing says that we can't put it back out there for independent management group to run. The key thing is that give us time to fix our things.
Right.
But where we want to include everybody in the place so that we don't disrupt our kids playing.
Hey, I want to thank you
Yeah.
for coming in. I know that you've been in the hot seat, right? I remember earlier you said that
Yeah.
you were in
Well,
the
you know, I just freaked out because, you know, somebody used racism there. I said, wait a minute, Guam doesn't. I don't know. I never came across that line in my career, you know, as a coach and as a teacher and being in the limelight, you know. I have every.
Well, that's why I'm glad
yeah.
that you came in here to kind
Yeah.
of.
Like I said, they're watching too much of the
defend
TV back there. I don't know.
So
you
the
know?
conversation is going to continue. Obviously, you know, this is
People
like the first steps.
People are
of this
afraid of
process.
change, and people
Okay.
are not going to see my ideas, you know, and that's expected because you can't seem to what do you call that, to make everybody happy
Right. And
until they see the progress of things.
And I
That's
think
when
that-
people
that-
change their minds.
I understand what you say. People are afraid of change, but I think that
Yeah.
people are more mind-boggled because they don't see the problems that these issues that. I mean, you only brought up a couple of them that are so egregious that they
Yeah.
require DOE to remove themselves, and I think that's what
Do we
the
see the
fear-
problems in let's say KM? Do we see the problems, the internal problems that you guys have that you guys say probably you can work more on things? Am I going to be concerned myself with that? I'm only going to concern myself with watching the news and say, well, this is great.
I know.
This
Okay.
is a great footage, you know. So it's the same thing.
Sure.
I see. I don't know everything
You're in there.
Yeah.
I got you. You're.
I'm
you're
inside.
Right.
I know
He's
what
an
we need to do.
insider.
Yeah.
Hey,
So
thank you, Mr. Long.
well, thank you very much.
Definitely out of
Appreciate
time. And hey, thanks again for watching Group Chat. We'll have more on this on the news tonight. And you know, there's a meeting with the superintendent and Terry DeBold. I know a lot of people are going to be looking forward to not just what happens during that meeting, but what happens after that meeting and the way forward. And again, you know, my take on it is it's all about the kids. We got to have the kids' best interests at heart. You know, all the kids, especially the sporting community, the level of competition. I think we got to have the public schools and the private schools competing against each other. It's just been great. It's made for some storied competitions over the last 20 years, and you know, I think that at the end of the day, that's what we don't want to see jeopardized. So.
Well, I just hope it keeps continuing to be a conversation so that it keeps the development on its toes.
Right.
So that we can make something good for.
I feel
all
like
of
though
Guam.
we should have discussed this more instead of removing yourself from the double I day and then expecting people.
Well, we
to talk
tried. We
about
have so
that.
many work sessions, but you know, only certain people show up.
Did you advertise with us?
Yeah.
Let us know.
So okay. Whatever.
Okay. Board member, Board of Education, James Lujan again. My name is Chris Barnett. Thank you so much for watching Group Chat. Hasta, adios!